Okay, this is Kirk Schaffner interviewing
Jim DeArmond.
at his home. Okay, what branch of the military did you serve?
It's the United States Air Force.
Okay. How old were you when you were serving in Vietnam?
Oh, I was 21.
Okay. What was your highest rank also?
Sergeant.
Sergeant. What was your assignment?
My assignment was with the United States Air Force 366 Security Police Squadron, 9th Air Force, Da Nang Air Base.
Okay, and what did that involve?
That involved maintaining security of the Air Force installation, perimeter guard duty, internal area duty, patrol of outer perimeter road access areas in all of the Da Nang area.
Okay. What years were your tour of duty?
68, 69.
Can you describe your first impressions of Vietnam?
My first impressions of Vietnam upon landing at the base was what was going to happen first. I thought the minute you step off a plane, something starts happening in the war zone. I didn't. You're uneasy. You don't know what to expect. You're new. You kind of are very apprehensive.
What was the area like?
Mostly vegetation, high mountainous region, coastal region by the South China Sea. Da Nang was one of the main ports, was the main port in I Corps. It was a major supply area for the I Corps section. It supplied Khe Sanh, Dong Ha, Phu Bai, and helped support outer base camps. It was the largest base in the facility, was the largest base in the I Corps, which was the closest to the North Vietnamese. It's 120 some miles from the DMZ.
Okay, what about Vietnam was different from what you had expected?
What about Vietnam was different than I expected? Well, being young and being impressionable, it's kind of like you guys are. You kind of go from one type of life to another type of life. Things you take for granted at home when you are put in a situation like that, you find it sometimes hard to adjust to, along with the other pressures that are involved in a situation like that. You have to cope with the luxuries that aren't available. Being on the base, like on being the main base as that was, we did have luxuries, but it wasn't as, as convenient as being back home. Nothing is, I guess, in that kind of a situation. And of course, the people was the main, difference that the Orientals were always around where we were, always were there on the base. So the base was in part of Da Nang was to the north of us, town Da Nang was to the north of the base, and what was you had a lot of people who lived on the base, with officers or enlisted personnel also were involved, whether they had a lot of housing areas around us and their little shacks where they lived in. Those things were hard. You see the different lifestyles and things like that. People, you realize how rough they had it, and you think, we had it rough here at home, but, some of the conditions we were around, you think some people were poor, and those people were more than poor, but below poor. People were really derelict.
A lot of these Vietnamese had clearance for the base.
yeah, like I said, they lived on base. A lot of the families lived on base because they had their either husbands or fathers or whatever were either officers in the Vietnamese army, or they were dependents, children dependents, and there were enlisted personnel's families, and lived very, very, very simple. Talking, basics. Sanitation was horrible. They were to have clearance, but then again, you still don't know who's who. Okay, just because they're on base with you and they were in an R-band uniform or wearing captain's insignia of the South Vietnamese Army does not mean that this man's political ideas go with the army he represents or supposed to represent. This man could be a North Vietnamese infiltrator, could be a Viet Cong sympathizer. At nighttime during attacks, I know for one incident that during a rocket attack that a Vietnamese colonel found a Vietnamese captain walking out of the flight line around where the A-1Es were parked during a rocket attack with a radio directing fire on the base. And he was shot on the spot. For a fact.
Okay, what do you remember most vividly about Vietnam?
What I remember most vividly about Vietnam? Well, there's a lot of things. Circumstances and situations you're involved in, pressures, sometimes immense boredom, sometimes immense laughter, homesick, scared, fears. I mean, those are things that you go through. You go through a whole scale of different emotions and vivid things that you can remember. You could go to A to Z on that. It's probably not have enough tape to talk about it all. Mostly it's a very, very, very deep learning experience. I wouldn't really want anybody to have to go through.
How would you summarize your feelings about the war?
My feelings about the war, what they've changed over the years. Because one of the things when you're that young, you're involved in a conflict, and you're representing your country, you're doing the things that everybody else has done. That represented your country throughout the years. This country's been in existence from Revolutionary War to World War I, World War II, Korean conflict. And any place else the United States military has been called into action. You're going because, number one, it's your duty as an American citizen. Number two, you do it because it's tradition. Right? So, when you go and you do the job you think you're supposed to be doing, and you think you're trying to accomplish something, and you try to understand what it is you're really doing, and the other things you see around you that are happening, like in the movie The Apocalypse Now. It's not reality, and it's not fake. Right? Some of those scenes in that movie The Apocalypse Now that look bizarre weren't really bizarre. Those are actual things that actually did happen in Vietnam. Like the R&R centers that popped up, and the guys were drinking beer and having parties, and bands were playing and getting drunk and carried away, and there weren't too many R&R centers for Charlie. The Viet Cong, they were more determined. Okay. So over the years have gone by, I've seen the senseless killing of American soldiers, giving up of the opportunity to win the war, not to go forth and achieve a victory, leaving MIAs, who knows, POWs back there, and you find out that this country really had no direct intent to winning the war. There was no real main goal other than try to outlast the North Vietnamese. And I resent that now. I felt we lost 54,000 guys. I'd rather have lost 54,000 guys and had still kept South Vietnam and kept the North Vietnamese out of the South and won the thing in the sense of saying there was an end to it like it was in Korea. And to do what we did, we just decided to pull out after bombing the North back to the bargaining table after 11 straight days of over-the-target, round-the-clock bombing of Hanoi is what brought the North Vietnamese back to the table to talk. We decided to withdraw after we got their concessions. We made agreements, and then they made agreements, and then we decided to withdraw our troops. And then after that, they decided to overrun the South. About 2 years later, we went over there and we lost 54,000 guys for absolutely nothing.
How do you feel towards the people that avoided the Vietnam conflict? They just fled the country or
I don't have any ill feelings at all to anybody who decided their own conscience at that particular time to leave the country, to avoid being drafted, to go fight a war that wasn't popular. Because, first of all, I would rather have those people out of the country than being next to me in a situation that I couldn't depend on the individual. That he was to carry his political views along with him into a combat zone. So everybody you have there has to be dependent upon each other. Camaraderie, closest to the guys, knowing you can depend on this man to do his job when that time comes. I'd rather have that than a guy who decides to leave the country and fight. Then again, too, I did not appreciate and I resented very, very strongly scenes that I'd seen on newsreels we'd see over there. To Armed Forces radio network, the television program, we could see a delayed tape about what you see in the United States would be 2 days later. They'd tape it and send it over. Seeing things in the news about people demonstrating and protesting and tearing up the American flag in this country in Washington, D.C., and other long-haired hippie protesters supposedly waving the North Vietnamese flag. When you have an active, participating war going on with your own armed forces in a foreign land, and that to me is not freedom of speech. That to me is freedom of stupidity. That's totally depicting and undermining the morale and confidence in your own fighting people. I really, really, really protest that tremendously. I mean, yeah, I have strong convictions about that also because I feel it was also their right to demonstrate. That's what makes this country so unique. You can voice your opposite opinions. I was fighting for this guy's right to protest my involvement in Vietnam. But I don't appreciate anybody who has that kind of an attitude to defacing American honor by destroying the American flag and waving the flag of the enemy. You can protest it, let's not deface the country.
How did you change as a direct result of the war?
I matured very rapidly. I've seen things that makes you wonder sometimes why. I've experienced strong emotional anxieties through combat situations, being the feeling of total helplessness, trying trying to figure out if this makes any sense. It's rough. It leaves you with a sense of it's hard to explain. You have to experience, and that's something I wouldn't want anybody to have to experience. But it changes you for the rest of your life. It gives you a look at life that maybe some other person doesn't quite look at the same way. Like I may look at something different than you do. I can look at a cloud. I can see a cloud. I can see a cloud in a different way. It can remind me of something that I can remember when I was over there. I see a little squirrel in the backyard. Maybe I enjoy that squirrel a bit more than you do. And I'm glad I'm here to see it. Take things that are simple and unimportant to somebody else, and they're important to me. You know, small little nature things, something like something that to me I have no time for harassment. Things that that aren't important to me. I don't mean that to be cold. I mean things to me that are important are other people and having friends and enjoying your life than it is to worry about things, little trivial things that don't matter, because things like that people want to make serious. And I always have a saying that you may think that's serious, but you don't know what serious really is. And that's what I mean by that. And you don't know what serious really is until you went and seen that kind of serious. That is, to me, is what serious is all about.
You feel like you've hardened because of the war.
Oh, there's no question. No question about that at all. That has changed my look and my feelings about a lot of things. There's sometimes go to a funeral. I don't have any problems going to funerals. I've lost a father when I was over there. That immediately changed my emotional output. I come back from a combat zone. I had to come home on emergency leave. My father was very ill. I wound up losing him when I was home. I had to go back. And when I went back, my ideals and the way things I looked at were different. I had a different look about things. I came back in country as a person who didn't have much care really what happened. I got involved, like I said, with the Jolly Greens. I decided to be adventurous. I figured, well, if I'm going to die here, I'd rather die shooting at somebody or be a participant than being a target. Even though the job that I did was a risk job too, but I would say I'd rather get involved and feel like I'm doing something more than just sitting here on my can waiting for somebody to blow it away. I was just going to be involved a little bit more. So I got involved with the Jolly Green Student Air Rescue. That involved picking up downed aircraft, pilots, some helicopter pilots, any injured crewmen, through battle damage, dropping in the close ground air support. We would go in and pick them up, mostly get them out of the water. But that would trade off with being on the door gunner. And support air defense was called air flight defense. But it wasn't an official position. It was a position you found yourself getting into, like through friends that you knew in different squadrons. Like everybody liked to ride. Guys like to ride the armed personnel carrier with the air police. They'd ride with them, and you get friends. They would be with the Jolly Greens. And say, hey, what are you guys doing? If you want to get on, we can get you on. If you want to go for flights, why don't you go out there? Well, they've helped us on occasions, and in certain instances we had, and it used to be reciprocated. And a lot of the guys would get involved with air rescue, and some other guys would get involved with the Marines, and I was involved with the Marines too on outer base defense. And the main compound bunker area was called Hotel Lima. It's like a command post for all the main bunkers. I spent my off-duty nights out there pulling guard with with the Marines. When they have duty officers come out, I have to tell them, post secure, Hotel Lima, sir, give my name, rank, United States Air Force. Of course, you might get the question, what the hell is the Air Force doing out here with us? Yeah, that's kind of a little inter-service type, rivalry. But everybody really, even the Marines, Air Force, everybody worked together because everybody needed each other.
What's the most important thing you want people to understand about Vietnam War?
The most important thing I want people to understand about Vietnam? Why? That left a lot of scars in this country, and they still linger today. But it should never be looked upon as a scapegoat for people who are always pointing fingers at every time the United States started getting involved in a military action someplace. Because they always want to call, there's going to be another Vietnam. Well, I don't know what they mean by that. Well, we're just going to go in and kill a bunch of Americans, or not go in as for a win. Swift military action that this country is more than capable of doing if they wanted to. Like in Nicaragua and other places in South America that are starting to be looking like Vietnam with the communist movements down there. I don't think we should be afraid to get involved if we are going to be committed. I don't think we should ever need to have another Vietnam again, because if we're going to go in and kill 50,000 Americans and send somebody's son, somebody's father, somebody's husband to serve for this country, you want to go and you want to have something to show for it. And that may be hard for somebody to understand. What I mean is you don't go and get involved in a military action and wind up with nothing to show for it. Don't let yourself be duped into a long, continuous type of war that drags on, drags on, drags on. Have an objective, get in and get out. Just don't be afraid to be Americans. Just don't be afraid to defend our freedoms. Just don't be afraid to defend our way of life. That's the only thing about Vietnam, and I could possibly say that's the only thing I would never like to see ever happen again. That's the thing about Vietnam I don't want to have ever happen again. That type of situation. If I was called to go to duty, if I could serve my country again, it was a situation there was a reason for being there. If there was a bona fide right reason to be there, I would go. Maybe I would be the one who might leave. I can't say. If it was a reason, I would go.
What do you think the country's learned from this war?
Just about what I just said just now. What they've learned is that, politically speaking, this country is afraid to get involved militarily strong, to show real strong force anywhere in the in the world. Take Beirut, Lebanon, for example. The Marines that were killed. Total sloppy. Security was involved. I mean, it was just, you don't take the United States Marine Corps, stick in the middle of a hostile area the way that was, knowing the track record of those people over there who love car bombs. I mean, they get the optional car bomb instead of the tire for their car when they buy one, because they drive around and they blow everything up. They're blowing, and put the American fighting machine right in the middle of all this, and not think they were going to be a target. It's going to be totally ludicrous, because that's exactly what they became. Lax in military security. It was the United States was afraid almost again to get involved. Well, we're going to be here, but we don't know if we're going to do anything or not. So let's just kill 240 of our American boys and we'll just have to leave because, we better get out of here before something else serious happens. I mean, that was ridiculous. That's a lesson we haven't learned yet from Vietnam. Just because we are there doesn't mean everybody's going to say, we better quit what we're doing because the United States Marine Corps is here, or the United States Army, or the United States Air Force, Our credibility's been really kind of shaken.
Have you or do you plan to ever see the wall?
I have never seen the wall, and I would very much like to go. Maybe I might go this summer. Who knows? I have every intention of going. I just never have gotten around to do it. I think the wall is a shrine to the American fighting men who lost their lives. Right now, I think it's more than just a shrine. Right now, I think it's more of a it's a showcase right now because the freshness of the Vietnam War being ended and all the press that the Vietnam veterans have been getting, the stories that have been coming out from the Vietnam veterans, and it's a popular place to be. It's a wonderful tribute to the Vietnam veteran, but I think I'll make a trip within the next couple of years. I probably will.
How were you treated by the American public when you returned home?
I wasn't quite treated anyway. I was just basically just ignored. You in Vietnam. You get off the plane at Norton Air Force Base, returning from Vietnam. The guys you made a flight home with, and some of the guys you were with over there on the plane. Maybe you had 4 or 5 of the guys with your group, your squadron that you were with. On the same plane. The last flight back home. Maybe some of you got stationed together back home if you still have any tour duty left, or others were just going to be discharged, finished up their service requirement. You get off the plane, you check your baggage through customs, a little chit-chat while the taxi pulls up, or you grab the bus. Maybe you go all chip in together and get a cab, make 4 of you take the trip to L.A. You dash to the ticket counter, get your ticket, and you split. And you disappear back into the woodwork in the society of America. The bands are playing. It was, look at them guys are from Vietnam. Let's give them a hand. Hey guys, how about a free ride back to the airport? That'd be $47.50, sir. So you go back home and you kind of take off your military uniform and you sit down in your room at night, first night back home, and you listen to all the silence that you finally hear. It drives you totally crazy. Everything being so quiet. And you still almost are still mentally in a Vietnam environment, yet you're back stateside.
What did you learn about yourself as a result of the war?
You learn what your limits are. I learned what my limits are. There's only so much, you can take. I was afraid. Everybody's afraid. I didn't break under stress, but you just really can find out what you really, situations that what you can take. You can take, it's amazing what sometimes the situations, that you encounter, being immense fear and wondering what's going to happen, and if you're going to be able to maintain your composure, you're going to be able to do the job you're supposed to do in times of extreme anxiety and immense confusion that's going on. You learn just exactly what your mettle is.
What are your feelings toward the Vietnamese people?
I really don't have any feelings toward the Vietnamese people. I feel if there are any Americans left over there, I wish they'd let them go, and I think they should, by all rights, release any remains of any Americans that are over there. I think this country should do all it can do to get the remains of any American soldiers who are left over there, and any American that's alive over there back. The worst thing you could do to any fighting force, discredit your own people. Show how much really they're expendable by not caring about what has happened to them. Vietnamese people have no this or that. They're very unusual people. They're very, very disciplined. They're very tough. They had to endure a lot more than we had to endure.
Would you like to go back and visit if you had the opportunity?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I think I'd be interested. I'd like to know how my feelings were. How I'd feel when I arrived in the same area, and it'd be like a deja vu, but I wonder where everybody was. What happened to everybody? It'd be like the ghosts would still be there. I'd be looking for friends. I'd be looking for places that don't exist anymore. And it might be more harmful than it may do me good. Because sometimes a high anxiety situation like that happens, that you wind up maybe regretting doing it because the anxiety of realizing what it was and where it was, and then seeing all this, and you're wanting to be attached to it or attached to people you were with, and they're not there now. The only way it would probably would be better to do is if I went with a group of the same outfit, guys I was with, that maybe we wanted to go, 10, 15 guys. I'll go back, maybe spend a week. It'd be better to go back as a group than it would be just to go by ourselves. One person and go with maybe two people. You feel more, be able to share each other's emotional feelings, be able to, to live through that. Maybe put it to rest and reclaim your youth again. Go back and just get that piece if you think it's still back here, bring it back home.
Did you learn a new respect for this country because of the war?
Did I learn a new respect for this country because of that war? Well, I can't say I did. And I can't say I didn't lose any respect either, other than the fact that I stated previously that if we are going to get involved in a military situation like that, we're either going to go in and win it and not play around with it and not lose lives senselessly. Any war is senseless, regardless of what the point or the reasoning is. It's just senseless. I think it's better to go in and do the job and do it right and do it the best way they can.
When you look at the American flag today, what do you feel?
I feel immense pride. I put the American flag up every weekend when I'm home, and the weather's nice and the sun's shining. Don't let it fly in the rain or adverse conditions. I have immense respect for that. I'm an American Vietnam veteran. I'm very proud of that. And I'm proud to fly the flag.
You have any final comments?
No, I don't have any final comments.
I think that's all.
Well, thank you very much for the interview, and I thank you and your interviewing group for showing up here tonight and taking part in this interview. And it has helped me bring out some things, which I haven't brought all the way out, but I can bring out within myself and deal. Thank you, Kurt.
Well, thanks for your cooperation.